Hello and welcome back to everyone in the room and welcome back to everyone joining online as well. I can't see you, but it's lovely you're here and it's lovely to see everyone back in the auditorium this afternoon. Today my name's Georgia. I'm Senior Editorial Officer at the Europeana Foundation and I'm hosting this keynote today. If you need any support, you can reach out to me in the room and also on Zoom, and also my colleagues Ad and Tamara who are supporting as well. It's my pleasure this afternoon to introduce our next keynote, the Time Machine Effect, Innovation Through Cultural Heritage Data, which will be given by Dr. Julia Noordegraaf. Dr. Julia Noordegraaf is Professor of Digital Heritage in the Faculty of Humanities at the University of Amsterdam, where she leads the research program Creative Amsterdam, or CREATE, that studies the history of urban creativity using digital data and methods. Julia's research focuses on the preservation and reuse of audiovisual and digital heritage. Julia acts as board member in CLARIA, the National Infrastructure for Digital Humanities Research, and coordinates the realization of the Amsterdam Time Machine, also participating as vice president in the European Time Machine project that aims to build a simulator for 5,000 years of European history. Julia joins us online today, so I'm delighted to hand the digital floor to Julia for her keynote. Julia, the floor is yours.
It feels very strange because I see the stage, but I don't see anyone in the room. But I'm really honored and pleased that I can be here today with you, both online and in Warsaw, be it in virtual form, to talk to you about what we do in Amsterdam with our Time Machine project to try and open up cultural heritage for innovation. Can I have the next slide, please? So the key objective of my talk today is to demonstrate the potential of the time machine for using cultural heritage as input for designing solutions to complex societal questions, such as the energy transition, future of housing, realizing inclusive societies, etc. Can I have the next slide, please? So the question then becomes not so much how can we preserve or access cultural heritage in itself and for itself, but how can we make it available as a resource for addressing complex societal challenges? And I think that this is important not only because cultural heritage has a lot to offer in terms of insights and knowledge, but also to defend the right of cultural heritage and its existence and our efforts in digitizing it and making it accessible to those in the outside world who do not always know its value. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is inspired by the Time Machine effort to unlock what we call the big data of the past and make it accessible by connecting it to virtual representations or digital twins of the cities or the environments in the world. And not only as they are now, but of course, how they emerged over time. Can I have the next slide? And the idea is really to use maps and point them, connect them to the locations, to the geolocations, and to use those as anchor points for the various cultural heritage sources or the data sources that we have available about the historical past of our cities and rural environments. Next slide, please. And we collaborate with the municipality of Amsterdam in realizing such a digital twin of historical Amsterdam. And what we did in the fall of last year was a data sprint where we actually, next slide please, where we collaborated to implement a time slider So they have a viewer, a 3D viewer, where you can load any 3D data. So this is present-day Amsterdam, and there is a lot of functionality in this interface to link to data that we have on those locations. What the time slider allows us to do is to also load historical data sets of areas. And here you see the Waterloo Square area of the present location of the present day town hall and opera house. And the time slider allows you to scroll back in time and project our 3D models of this area and all the data points that we have for this area and make that clickable and zoomable and basically walkable. And they have already lots of other functionalities in this platform, such as showing the sun and the lighting, etc. But all of that can then now also be used with historical data. Next slide, please. And the proposition that we have put to the municipality is that historical data should be brought in these digital twins because they show us what I call the soft tissue of urban living. Next slide, please. So historical data enrich these digital twins and the whole smart city agenda with data and knowledge on how people experience the city and how they value living in the city. Next slide, please. And what we see that in urban development, these types of data are often neglected in future-oriented development projects. But our proposition is that this knowledge of how people experience and value living in a certain area are of key relevance for realizing societal transitions. Next slide, please. And that is so because they make visible the values that people attribute to issues like climate, health, housing, inclusive societies, and how they experience these areas of life. Next slide, please. So our proposition is that with this time machine approach of space and time as an entry point to the past, we can make historical information from cultural heritage sources available by connecting it to the places and the times to which they relate. And in that way, we can recreate the experience of the past in the present. Next slide, please. So to demonstrate that this can actually work in practice, we did a small pilot on a Jewish quarter of Amsterdam. So it's the same area we just saw. It's the former Jewish neighborhood of Amsterdam, which was run down and torn down in the 80s to make room for the new city hall and opera house. Next slide, please. And what we did is we have created for every street and every location in this area, we've created a unique identifier, a unique code. And we've linked to various sources in the Jewish Museum, in the city archives, the Institute for Social History, which holds the records of the mining employees, mining company, or the diamond industry company employees, and data, contextual data from Wikidata, for instance. And we've all connected all these data points to these location points. And that brings them together and makes them projectable on a map. Next slide, please. And on top of that, we have projected the 3D reconstructions of this area that came out of a research project of colleagues of mine from archaeology that recreated this neighborhood as it existed in the 17th and the 19th century. Next slide, please. So then you can bring together this data, connect it with these visualizations, and tell stories. So what you see here is a mock-up, so it's only a drawing of a possible prototype for serious tourism in this area that brings back to life that history that has disappeared. Next slide, please. So in that sense, this time machine can function to educate people about the past and to improve social cohesion, so to give historical data new relevance. And in the pictures, we see examples of projects like In My Neighborhood, a foundation that organizes meetings between people who had experiences with war, the Second World War, or with migration or colonial history in the neighborhood of primary schools, and the primary school children through that meeting learn about this past. And you can enrich these kind of experiences with the time machine visualizations of what the neighborhood looked like. Next slide, please. We're currently developing and contributing this also as a present to the 750th anniversary of Amsterdam this year, a project called Homepage of Your Home, where it's basically a simple website where we allow people to search by address, and people then, of course, first look up their own address. And then they can see all the images and that we have of their home as it evolved over time. So basically, this approach allows us to bring history and cultural heritage to your own doorstep. And eventually, and this is something we need to, of course, research further. Can I have the next click, please? We want to make this interactive so that people can actually enrich that heritage and that information we have with their own knowledge and their own objects and their own data. And in this, I'm really inspired by the Europeana World War I roadshows, where citizens could come to these events to have their sources digitized and contributed to the Europeana Library. Next slide, please. Yes, and of course it will then be something like this. This is a location of my own home, and if you click, you see the actual area. Can I have a click, please? You see that the place where I live is actually the location of a former cinema theater, which I really like because I study cinema history also as a researcher. But this cinema theater was torn down, but when the time machine also comes to my neighborhood, I will be able to actually visit the cinema again and watch the movies there that played there in the past. Next slide, please. But as I said, this is not only interesting for education or for social cohesion, it's also of practical importance. So the city of Amsterdam has kilometers of canal walls that are crumbling, as you see in this picture. And for that maintenance work of these bridges and canal walls, the municipality's engineering office would really like to have a time machine where they can actually retrieve the building plans and the maintenance records of all these locations that are crumbling. Next slide, please. Next slide. Yeah. And in our proposition, we want to bring in all these kind of visualizations of historical Amsterdam as inspiration for thinking about the city of the future. The municipality and in the Netherlands in general has to involve citizens as participants in thinking about these future cities. And we now want to together try to bring in this historical information and visualizations to see if that inspires people to think about the future. Next slide, please. And we tested this assumption in a small pilot around living with water in Amsterdam. As you know, Amsterdam has many waterways, and the water level is really an issue. And we collaborated with the Architecture Center and a lot of other partners in exploring this proposition of whether bringing in historical information about living with water in Amsterdam can help us to navigate the challenges brought about by climate change of living with water in the future. Next slide, please. I'm going to end by
The systematic linking of historical datasets enables users to ask new questions about, for example, daily life or the use of public space in the city. For the exhibition, the team of the Amsterdam Time Machine has collected maps and historical data from the City Archive of Amsterdam. This information has been added to a thematic version of Amsterdam's digital twin, created by the Municipality of Amsterdam, which, thanks to the addition of a time slider, allows users to visualize variations in water levels. As additional 2D layers in this 3D environment, users can switch to other thematic views, such as the historical maps of the Amsterdam waterways from a bird's eye perspective, or the economic values of the waterways as reconstructed through a comparison of the taxation on houses in the Canal Belt in the 17th and 19th century. In the past, there were great differences in the city's water level. The city and its buildings were also designed for this. However, now there are new buildings which are so close to the water that it wouldn't take much before these living rooms become flooded. A big challenge is to make the water system future-proof in times of climate change. Knowledge of the past can help us to find solutions to contemporary problems. Historical awareness can lead to insights about important topics like climate change and an inclusive society. The Amsterdam Time Machine will strive to provide insight into historical facts and present these in such a way that citizens are motivated and maybe even excited to think along about their future.
next slide. Thank you very much. That was it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Julia. Thank you everyone for listening along. Julia, I don't know if can we see Julia on the screen? Again, in the auditorium? Yeah, great. Hi there. Yeah, Julia, obviously you're not in the room, but I'm very pleased to say there were a lot of very firmly nodding heads throughout much of your talk. So I think that's definitely a good sign for agreement for much of what was said. We have a limited amount of time, but we do have some time for a Q&A now. Julia, can you hear me okay? You're good to carry on with the Q&A? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Lovely, thank you. So if you were in the room and you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and my colleague will come to you with a microphone. We do have one we can kick off with online. So maybe, Julia, I will put that to you first. And then, yeah, if you're in the room and you would like to ask a question, then that's please raise your hand. So the question is, when government archives are digitized and used as input for the Time Machine project, how is the data privacy issue considered?
Yes, a very good question. I think it is not so difficult for really older data, obviously. But when it comes to persons and more recent data, this is an ethical question that we really still need to research. Oh, I see I disappeared from screen, but there I am.
Yeah, could you
Frighteningly
repeat the last
big, but
could you repeat that last sentence possibly?
yeah, that it is also a matter of thinking through these issues more while working on these projects. So it is very much a research and development project. So it's not as if we're done and just applying things. And the question of how you deal with person data is particularly privacy sensitive, obviously. So I don't have a clear answer of how do we deal with it, except that the closer you come to the present, the more important it is to be careful with that data.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you so much. Yeah, are there any questions in the room? Yes, is that a question? No, sorry, that's fine. We're almost at time then, but maybe I will just finish with a question if that's okay. When you showed the image of the cinema, my colleague leaned over to me and said, "I celebrated my 12th birthday there," which is, I think, a wonderful testament to the kind of the personal history and memories that you find in cities and in buildings. So I was just wondering if you could say a bit more about working with residents of Amsterdam, with the community of Amsterdam, and how you've kind of approached that and found the people you need to be speaking to as well.
Yes, that's well. We so far I have presented this homepage of your home kind of mock-up that we've developed to uh, two types of audiences. So one is was at the University of Amsterdam Alumni Day. So it was a lot of people who had a connection with the university, are a bit older, and so on. And everyone seems to have a connection with their own home. And for me, that's very much showing how cultural heritage is closely related to issues of identity, of belonging. So that was evident from the enthusiasm from the room. People started to shout their own addresses and their former houses or the places that mattered to them. And I had pretty much a similar experience when I shared this with school children in age 11, 12. So you see that it is for everyone really important, the place where you were born, the place where you live, or the places where you live. That all matters to people. And for me, this is so personalization and is a way of making that cultural heritage meaningful for that one person that may not think of going to a museum or an archive themselves. But when you bring it to them and to the places that matter, this really touches a nerve.
Yeah. Thank you. I think that's a wonderful note to end this keynote on. So huge thank you so much. And I'm going to invite everyone to give a round of applause for Julia for her keynote. Thank you so much.